This is QHAR. QHAR is an esoteric programming language that my friend and I made in 2 days based on a meme image we kept sending to each other. For those who don't know, an esoteric programming language is a programming language that is not made for ease of use, and is rather made for fun, to annoy people trying to code in it, or just to see how ridiculous a programming language can get. There are a few basic commands that I will soon explain, but before that, here are some ground rules for the language. So, to begin, the only allowed characters are Q, H, A, and R, both in uppercase and lowercase, question marks, and exclamation marks. Even in comments. It's not like you'll care, but just act like it was a big shock. There are no strings in the language, because fuck you, it's an ESOLang, deal with it. If you want to print a string, you have to set multiple variables to the decimal representation of each character's ASCII value, and then output each variable one at a time. You are also not allowed to use decimals. Instead, you have to convert each digit to a character using this chart. I'd love to pretend that I'm sorry, but I'm really not. Alright, on to the commands. The command QHAR, in all lowercase, similar to the keyword var in some languages, is used for variable declaration. The syntax for the command is QHAR, followed by the variable name, which doesn't get used at all unless you want to overwrite it later, but it's a required argument, so fuck you, deal with it. After that, you can put an exclamation mark if you're writing to the variable, an exclamation mark followed by a question mark if you want to do subtraction, or a question mark followed by an exclamation mark if you want to do addition. Multiplication and division don't exist, by the way, so good luck making physics calculations, you fucking nerd! The final argument is the content of the variable, which will be read as a decimal number, still only using the characters from the chart earlier. The command QHAR in all uppercase is used for function declaration. The syntax for the QHAR command is the exact same as the lowercase QHAR until after the exclamation mark. Write a question mark followed by 2 new lines. It's necessary to have an empty new line between the question mark and the following commands because not even a computer language loves you. Also, I couldn't figure out how to prevent the program from crashing when you don't add an empty new line, so it's a rule now, fuck you. After writing all the commands you want the function to have, make a new line with just a question mark and nothing else. Alright, so those were probably the hardest of all the commands to explain, so I'll just do a speed round for the rest. Exclamation mark QHAR exclamation mark is used for executing functions. It takes only one argument, namely the index of the function in the program. If you want to run the third function declared starting from the top of the script, you will have to write the character with the value of 3 from that chart earlier, which in this case is a capital R. QHAR question mark in lowercase is used for text input. The user will be able to type something with their keyboard, and whatever they type will act as a variable. However, do note that if the user doesn't type in a loud character, the program will crash. Exclamation mark is a goto command. This is pretty much the only command that makes sense. It takes one argument and is the character of the line number according to the graph I showed earlier, -1 because why the fuck not at this point. Exclamation mark is a print statement. It takes 2 arguments, the mode and the index of the variable you are printing. There are 2 modes, Q and R. Q will print the number assigned to the variable, and R will print the ASCII character with the value of the variable. If you set a variable to 97, then print it using R mode, it will print a lowercase a. To find the index of the variable, look at how many variables there are before the one you are printing. To print the first variable in a script, put an uppercase Q as there are no variables before it. Question mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark, wow, these names are stupid, is a comment line. Like I said earlier, you can only use the allowed characters, so they're basically pointless. Question mark is an if statement, and is also by far the hardest command to explain. The reason I put it later in this video is because you need to know some other commands to understand this. Alright, the if statement takes 2 arguments, the first being what you want to check with the following argument. I'll explain. You have 3 operations you can perform. Exclamation mark is like equals in most programming languages, meaning is equal to. Question mark means is greater than, and exclamation mark means is less than. The second argument is the line of code you want to check. This is where it gets difficult, so I'll explain it with an example. This script starts by making a variable by the name of Q and sets it to 9. This line is necessary for the if statement, as you'll see later. The next line sets that variable to 0. After that, I add 1 to the value of the first variable. This will be pointed to by a goto line a bit later. After this, you can put whatever you want. For the sake of this demonstration, I chose to print the value of the q variable. Now here comes the if statement. This if statement checks if the current value of the variable in the first line of code, indicated by the q, is less than the variable's current value. I switched the values around, which is why I said less than, as to make it easier to follow, but I hope you get the point. On the first time getting to the if statement, it returns false, as the current value of the variable is 1, which is lower than 9. After iterating through this loop 10 times though, it returns true. This means it will skip the next line of code, which in this case is a goto statement pointing to line 4, breaking out of the loop in the process. If I run this program, it will print 1 through 10. By the way, I'm not printing new lines, which is why it looks weird. Finally, let's create a program. I am working on maybe making a Linux version, but for now it's only on Windows. To code a simple Hello World script, start by downloading QHAR 2.0 from GitHub. The link is in the description. After downloading it, put the folder that the exe file is in your path. I'm not going to explain how to do this, but if you're a programmer, you've probably already done this a bunch of times. If you don't know how to do this, just look it up. Now create a file wherever you want. I'll name it helloworld.qhr. Now open the file in whatever code editor you want. Considering there's no syntax highlighting available, you might as well just use Google Docs. The first order of business is to make a few variables and assign them to the ASCII number of the letter you want to write. Starting with 72 for an uppercase h, 101 for a lowercase e, 108 for a lowercase l, and so on. The next part of the code will print the variables. All we have to do is write a few print statements in R mode, and then put the index of the variables like explained before. Finally, the last line of code should always be QHAR. To run the file, I will open a command prompt window in the folder the script is in, and type QHAR 2.0 helloworld.qhr. And there you have it. I started writing the script to this video in March, and knowing how fucking slow I am at editing, I'll probably have to say what year it is by the time I'm done editing. Thank you for watching, have a great day. Oh yeah, by the way, you should definitely subscribe to I'm Zyper. He's the friend I built this with. He's been a great help in this.